Hi, I'm John, author of the Cabin Owner's Manual and owner of Cardinal Custom Lawn. I'm here today telling you a story about a cabin. It's mid-August, really hot, and we get some thunderstorms that come in, especially in the evenings. And the story that happened yesterday is something that I thought you guys might be interested in. There was a thunderstorm happened, and what we think happened to the cabin was that it got struck by lightning. I can't guarantee that. There's no physical marks, but the guests got to the cabin. It had been cleaned earlier that day. The guests get to the cabin, and there's no power on. So they called and said, hey, the power's not working, what can we do? And we tell them throw the switch. And so they went to the breaker box, threw the main switch, and most of the stuff came back on. However, the hot tub wasn't working, and come to find out, the pump for the well was not working either. So we loaded up and came out to the cabin and started working on it. On the hot tub, there's two different breakers. Not always, but sometimes there's a breaker by the hot tub on the deck, and then there's a breaker in the breaker box. And typically the one in the breaker box is a 50 amp fuse, and it's got a little test reset like a ground fault circuit indicator would be in a bathroom. But it's on the actual breaker itself. Well, I got it, the test button was stuck, we got it reset, and the hot tub came back on. No major deal. But when it came to the pump for the well, we could not figure out how to get it to come back on. Went downstairs. The problem was this cabin has a basement and it's locked. Well, the owner has the key, and we're working on it, trying to find the key. The owner wasn't available. We're trying to figure out how to get to it. Long story short, we ended up getting a key, got in the basement, and set the reset button on the well pump, but it just kicked immediately back off. So what we did was we have a company called Clark Septic, and they came out this morning, came out at 8:30, and they had to replace more or less, it's the control box for the well. Took them all of about 30 minutes to test it and make sure that was a problem, recheck it, uninstall the old box, install the new box, and not a major issue, but now the house has water again. And so the owners, to be honest, we still haven't got in touch with the owners. We're trying to get in contact with them, but I guess they're out of the country, and we're having a hard time finding them. And the guests, as you can imagine, were not exactly happy. They got there late and they got unpacked in the cabin, and then they found the problems, and they ended up having to spend the night in the cabin without water. And we went and got them several gallons of water. I think I brought them 10 gallons of water, and then brought them several bottles of water so that they could stay there in the cabin. And we offered to give them an upgrade, but they were just so tired they didn't want to move, and I honestly don't blame them. And since we were able to get it fixed early the next morning, it wasn't that big of an issue. So big thank you to those guests for being heroes and working through the situation. That was awesome of them. But one of the questions I asked is, do they not have somebody that just checks these cabins? And the answer is yes. We do have somebody that checks the cabins. We run a property management company, and we do have people that check the cabins, and that house was cleaned and checked, and everything was fine. But remember, you're in the mountains, and things don't always go just right. And if there's a lightning storm and the lightning strikes the cabin and knocks out different things, whether the person has checked it or not, it's still going to go out. Mainly because it was checked before the lightning strike happened. And we can't just drive around and check every cabin after a storm, because that's kind of rare. At any rate, it's just something that you need to know. If you're going to be in the mountains and you're going to be working on a cabin, you need to understand that things aren't always perfect and things don't always go just as planned. But the advantage is that if you have a management company that is on top of it and can make things work, then typically speaking, it's going to work out. The guests are now satisfied. They've got a cabin that they can stay in. I'm sure the owners will be satisfied because their cabin is going to stay rented, and yes, they're going to have to pay for the Clark Septic to come out and repair the repair that they did. And so, there's some things that they're going to have to spend some money, but they've got to keep the rental, and so they're going to get money off the rental, and so it'll kind of offset the cost. But guys, just keep in mind, when you're in the mountains, I say it this way, everything's harder in the mountains. I was talking to a construction buddy of mine just a minute ago, and we were talking about installing a septic system, and he wants us to clear a lot so that he can build a new cabin on it. And he asked me a price, and I told him the price, and he said, wow, that's so much more than what he was used to. And I said, well, buddy, that's because you're used to building houses on flat ground. I said, whenever you have to cut trees and haul them up a hill, whenever you get on a 20% grade, it multiplies things drastically. A 20% grade is pretty steep, but even a 10% grade, even a 5% grade makes a huge difference, especially whenever, you know, the 5% grade goes over and then there's a drop off that just goes down over the hill. There's a lot of safety issues. I mean, if you've got a track hoe out there and the guy takes the boom the wrong way, track hoe can fall down the hill and kill him, the operator or somebody else. So there's a lot of safety that goes into this. So just remember that, you know, in the mountains, by the way, I'm not trying to scare you with this. This is not something to say don't buy in the mountains because it's way more expensive. It is more expensive to work in the mountains, but then you also get more money. That's the reason why cabin rent's so much better than a monthly rental on a house would. You can make, you know, so much higher income off of a cabin than you can off of a rental house. When I say rental house, I mean monthly rental as opposed to nightly rental. So nightly rentals in cabins make a lot more money than monthly rentals do. So, but then you have to pay more money. So it's kind of an offset as well. The advantage is cabins also appreciate faster than houses do. So they make you some pretty good money. At any rate, there's more about it in my book. Actually, the book is on the Apple Bookstore now. It's called The Business of Owning a Rental Cabin. You can get it on our website at www.cardinalcustomlawn, and it's under the books page. Or you can just go on the Apple Bookstore and find it under The Business of Owning a Rental Cabin, as well as the original book, The Smoky Mountain Cabin Owner's Manual. Actually, it's 2.0 now, so it's not the original. But both of those books are now on the Apple Bookstore. You're welcome to go buy them. They will tell you much more about working in the mountains, and hopefully you'll be better educated so that you can learn more about what you're buying or what you're renting, or learn more just about cabins in general. It's a great industry. You can make a lot of money in it. I know a lot of people that do very well, and there's a lot of good things that happen in the cabin world. You just have to understand that when you make more money, sometimes you have big problems, and this is a problem that we kept from being a big problem because we do a good job managing. At any rate, this is John, Cardinal Custom Lawn and Outdoor, and author of the Cabin Owner's Manual, and now author of The Business of Owning a Rental Cabin. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.